Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Time to get together again and talk about no contingencies.
This is like
real estate.
This is one of my favorite things to do.
Really?
Yeah. I love coming over here and doing this podcast with y'all.
I like the finish. I guess leading up to it, just the uncertainty. Are we going to find enough to talk about? Well, we always do.
Not a problem.
It's not a problem.
Have you met me? Have you really?
We need a timer to see who spends more time talking, right? Whether it's her or I that spends more time talking. I bet you I talk more than you.
I think it's about even.
You think so?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Can we run a timer one show? Cool. So this week we're going to talk about marketing.
Marketing.
The lost art of marketing.
I live for marketing.
You do?
Yeah.
Why? What is it about marketing that you love?
I think it gives you an opportunity to really be really creative. There's a lot more to real estate than just commission checks.
Without good marketing, for the last 2.5 years, marketing hasn't mattered much. But going forward, without good marketing, if you have a listing,
exactly,
there will be no commission check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think people have forgotten how to market?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Did you answer that? Why yes, why no?
I don't think they've forgotten. I think sometimes you just have to go backwards a little bit. So,
So does that mean that you think they develop bad habits? Not putting words in your mouth.
No, I don't think they've developed bad habits. I think it's just getting in the groove of things again. Remembering that things were a lot different once upon a time before 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So if we can just get back to that, which I know we can and we will, and it won't take long because it's not hard to tap back into that, create those creative juices.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we've gone through a time where it just didn't matter too much. It was, to a certain extent, a little bit of a waste of money, right?
Yes.
There's many times that we shot videos and those kind of things, and the property was sold before we could edit the video.
And you could get away with some half-ass. Sorry. So
yeah,
it's true. Some half-ass.
Yeah, we saw a lot more camera phone pictures.
Oh yeah.
Than we had in a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think the most important parts of marketing are, Heather?
Definitely
real estate.
Honestly, and this sounds so perfunctory, but photography. It's a presentation. You're presenting this property to the world and saying, ta-da, and trying to create a buzz. So what better way to do that than some kick butt photos,
Do you take photos yourself?
No.
Or you have somebody?
Heck, no.
You have somebody?
I've jumped around a little bit. I'm never dissatisfied when I hire a professional photographer. But I've recently found a photography team, marketing firm that I find that for what I get and for what I pay for, I feel like it's top notch.
There's more to photography than just the person behind the camera taking the picture, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if we, we're open MLS or Zillow or whatever portal you want to talk about and go through the properties, we're definitely going to see the haves and the have-nots in terms of the quality of the photos, including the composition of the photos.
Definitely.
What do you do? What do you do to make sure that a house is show ready?
I think that, what I do is I make sure, obviously, that it's clean.
Yep.
And one thing that drives me crazy as an agent, I do not, unless the closets are knock your socks off, this is the Taj Mahal of all closets, you don't need to see the closets. You know what I mean? Especially if they're randomly kind of put together and there's shoes on the floor, one shoe over another, and the colors aren't organized. To me, it just deters the person from focusing.
I think we hit a nerve here about closets.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm passionate. I mean, it's true. If you're especially if you're looking at properties that are typically over $1 million, the closets, if they're newer,
yep,
they're gonna have customized everything. They should.
Yes.
A place for purses, a place for jewelry, a place for shoes, a place for suits and dresses. So it's gotta be organized.
Yeah, that's the key, right? It's sometimes it's less about what it has in it and more like how it's utilized by the owner. If they have their shit everywhere, it's not gonna show well.
Yeah.
So, is your stuff in your closet color coded, custom? Really?
It is.
Right.
It is.
Can Preston come by your house and take some pictures so that we can share it when this comes out?
After I do some purging, because right now, even though it's color coordinated, I can barely get clothes out because it's so constricted. We're literally bursting at the seams.
I think we should get some comments and maybe get some pictures and see what we're dealing with. Maybe we can help you get rid of some stuff.
That's interesting. I wish it was bigger so I didn't have to, but I got to work with what I have, and I have anxiety when I go in there now. So,
what about houses that are just ugly?
Those you can have fun with those, don't you think?
And certainly, if you want to talk about getting creative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, any photographer can make a gorgeous house look pretty good,
that is true.
right? And a really talented one can make it amazing.
That is true. But it's the challenging houses.
Yeah.
You really gotta dig.
Yeah. So what do you do? What do you focus on?
Have you ever seen any of like the funny Zillow listings?
Those are my favorite.
They're the best.
Yeah.
So,
you subscribe to Best of Zillow on Facebook?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So I think that
Zillow Gone Wild, I think, is one of them.
those are good.
Yeah.
Those are so over the top crazy. I mean, there's no other choice but to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Because they're just out of this world. Like, you just can't imagine people actually living.
Have you ever had a listing and done that?
I haven't. Have you been into recently? Well, not recently, but have you been into some of the houses in like Port Royal that are all just original everything, like 1975?
I mean, I've been in those houses a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that any of those could be left after what we've just gone through the last couple of years.
Yeah. They're in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so what do? Do you let the picture speak for itself? Do you try and compensate for it with some commentary?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. It depends on what we're talking about. Like, for one of those properties, I actually created a video, a TikTok, and I used an old song, and I like highlighted and featured some of the wonky things that like I kind of forgot even existed. You know, like the some of the wallpaper that just screamed 70s.
Yeah.
Or the wood paneling that screams 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Right down to like the thermostat that was not digital or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or any of it, you know? So I think I was going to ask you, do you ever market like what could be versus what is?
So I wish I could say that I was as creative as you, but I'm not. So, my success comes from dealing with statistics and facts and those kind of things, right? Mm-hmm. So on a house that's just ugly, I'm going to make sure that I have all the information on it. I'm going to make sure that I have floor plans. Chances are somebody's going to renovate it. I'll probably get a couple general bids.
Yes.
To deal with some of the most offensive parts of the ugliness so that I can give people an idea of what it would take to correct it.
Yes.
If it's got a horrible backyard, I'll get a price to put in a pool, get a pool sketched, those kind of things. So that's how I've always dealt with it, but I don't have the dance moves to do a TikTok. It's gonna help on anything.
No,
so I might have to hire you to come and dance on one of my ugly listings.
There was no dancing. It was literally just kind of like zooming in on what existed at that moment.
And then kind of making a joke about it, or?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Does do you have to be careful with the homeowner on that?
I think it's okay to ask permission and just say, can I have a little bit of fun with this? And if they're like, no way, this is a $750,000 property, you are absolutely not going to put it on TikTok and make fun of the fact that it's original everything, then, you take your cue.
Yeah.
But I mean, anything that, what do they say? Like even bad PRs, good PR, something, I don't know. Anything that can create a buzz and draw a little bit of attention, It's not like it's out there on Zillow.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to get the property in front of people, right?
Yes.
And there's enough people out there that are looking for projects. We hear it all the time, right?
True. Yeah. So you do some renderings, like you said. I've seen properties where things have come along so far with technology. I had to take a double look because there was a rendering of a pool, but it actually looked like the pool was really there.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Little trickery there.
I maybe shouldn't speak to this because I don't know all of the exacts, but I know this was something that was on the radar for NAR for a while.
Yes.
They were concerned about people using technology to misrepresent
True.
what a house looked like. And that can come right down to virtual staging. How far, what is the line that you can go up to before you kind of flip over and we're talking about false advertising,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
We got our marketing people on the other side of the cameras, and I'd like to get, their opinion on some of this, right? Like, what, in your opinion, when does it switch to false advertising?
It's a blurry line.
It's a blurry line. But there is a point where it switches over where you're misrepresenting a property. You would agree that most people, not to put words in your mouth, but would you agree that most people, when they look at property, look at pictures first, and then some of them never look at the
Description.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they might think that this is what the property looks like.
Yes. They're super disappointed if they never even bother to look at it and then go to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what should those be allowed? Should there be a separate segment of what could be?
Gosh, I don't know. That's probably a whole other conversation.
It's right up there with when you meet your real estate agent for the first time and they look like something like their picture.
Exactly. I mean,
have you ever had a listing where people complain that the pictures were too good, that they were disappointed by it?
I haven't had that. It's in fact been the opposite.
The opposite.
When buyers walk in and they're like, wow, that it seemed a lot bigger in the photos. Well, of course it does. That's why they use widescreen.
So they were disappointed when they got to the property
Yeah.
that it wasn't as nice as the pictures.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like those relationship apps.
Yeah. That was a good one. So how do you set a budget? Like on a house that sucks.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you how you math the math on, various budgets for, price points.
Yeah, so for photography?
Just listings in general. Like how do you math the math? And I put in the notes here, you've got one $329,000 property, and then you have a $3,029,000 property. So math and math. How do you determine?
I know this is going to sound like BS. We treat them the same.
Okay.
There's no budgetary restrictions on one or the other.
Okay.
And so, the person that has the $3 million house, theoretically, they lose out because less of their commission budget is going to be spent on marketing. I look at it as they balance themselves out.
Okay.
Right? So now, having said that, if you have a 7,000 square foot house, you're going to take a hell of a lot more photos and going to spend a lot more money just by virtue of the time that photographer is going to be in the house.
Right. And that's not in our hands.
Yeah. Then you're dealing with the subject material, right? Correct. Versus a $329,000, 900 square foot, one bedroom condo, right? I mean, there's just going to be less to photograph. And that. So it's going to be natural that that bill is going to be less money, but we don't walk into it thinking that.
No. And I mean, I don't either when it comes to what I'm going to spend to promote it, but when it comes to say like events, and you just brought up a good point, like the condos. Like I'm not going to have a wine and dine, lots of agents, or like certain agents say, because I know that they have clients at this level in a one bedroom condo. I'm going to do that in the $2 million property in, one of the really well-known communities.
Yep.
So because you can host that many people and you've got the venue for it. to get people in and out.
What determines when you're going to do one or the other besides just the size of it? When would you decide to do a wine and cheese high-end event? The first weekend that you have it? Would it be after a certain amount of time?
I would do it the first week.
You do it the first.
Oh yeah.
And what happens if now you're into it 6 or 8 weeks, showings have slowed down, right? Usually that's the point when you're going to start having conversations about a price reduction. Absolutely. But we've all had the client that says, I don't want to lower the price. What else are you going to do for me? What does Heather say to them?
I mean, besides what I already do, which is call other agents, call other brokerages. I mean,
have you paid exorbitant amounts of money to put it in magazines and all that kind of stuff?
That's a tough one because you risk. I mean, what if you risk, if they're unwilling to budge on price point, you risk losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a bet. They're asking you to bet your money.
Exactly.
On their property.
Money that you haven't made off of that property.
Right.
So I think that, in my notes here, I actually have, to protect yourself as an agent financially, you've got to have certain guidelines to protect your finances.
Yeah.
And perhaps one of those, you could write some kind of clause in the contract that if we don't sell, if you're unwilling to budge on price point and we do not sell here and we end up not selling at all because you're just asking for the world, I want my investment protected and I want you to pay for marketing.
Yeah.
I know an agent that does that.
Does that right now?
Oh yeah.
I used to do that back in short sale days. If I was going to take on a short sale, I wanted to make sure that we had agreed upon up front a price reduction schedule. And we would sign off on that with the dates and the prices that we would go to. Because I was going to start collecting information and preparing to do the short sale from the beginning. It's just a lot of work. I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to negotiate something with the bank.
Okay.
But I haven't done one of those since then. Is that what you're talking about? They have like a price reduction schedule that says?
I mean, not even so much a price reduction schedule, but usually when you're in a listing meeting, you already have, or you should have knowledge of what that house should be on the market for. I mean, are you going to risk just completely declining the listing and saying, listen, we're not on the same page, so I'm not going to take it?
I would say 75% of the time I kick myself.
Yeah.
Because somebody else gets the listing at a number that I know it's not going to sell for. And then 3 months later, you see price reduction.
Yeah.
Sold.
I think it depends on how far apart people are. There's, you've got to take that into consideration. But I mean, if it's something crazy, then yeah, I'd probably be like, no, I don't want to be the laughing stock of Hilton Head agents. So, find a sucker. But if we're, if it's within a couple $100,000, then I think it's something that can be worth it.
Yeah, that has always been my measure is like, do I really think in my heart I can sell it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of less about money, but it is an important thing. Like, this is a business, right? And from the moment you take on a listing, you start spending money.
Yes.
And the only time you recapture that investment, like if you take that overpriced listing and you spend all that money and you spend 10 grand in that listing, right? And the owner says, oh, I'm not going to sell it or I'm going to list it with somebody else. Right. They still have that house.
Yeah.
They haven't lost anything. They've lost some time.
Yeah.
They haven't lost any money. But you have, and you've got nothing to show for it. You got an expired listing agreement.
Exactly.
Right, to show for it. So I always, probably too much, but I always put a lot of weight on, in my heart, do I think that I can sell it at that price? Yeah. And I think, my sense is other people, just take it and say, I'll worry about getting the price right later. Right now, I'm going to get the listing.
Yeah.
I'll worry about getting the price right later on.
Yeah. One thing at a time.
Yeah. That's something that I just doesn't feel too good to me.
Yeah.
So
I understand.
So you get a listing and you create all this wonderful content for it. Then what do you do with it?
Well, I was going to ask you, do you ever do websites for property listings?
an individual one-off website? I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
I have.
How was the turnout on that?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is that it's such for such a brief moment in time that to drive traffic, like it's great. You have this website. If somebody types in the address of the property, they'll find it. But now the way that most of the URLs are built for the website, if you type in an address, you're going to find the property that way too if it's for sale. True. So my feeling is, if my website has lots of SEO juice, why would I start and put this property on another independent website that has, no SEO power out there? I don't know. Then I understand the positives to it. The main positive being that the seller feels cool that they have a URL that's their address.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think from a marketing standpoint, I think there's better things that you can do.
I was really curious to hear your answer on that. I've never done it. So
what's your thoughts on it?
I gave it some thought, and I thought to myself, if I had like an out of this world, like what is it, Seven Oaks out there in Culleton, right? Yeah, something like that, I would totally do a website. I mean, anything that's crazy over 4, 5, 6 million, I think I would definitely just give it a shot and see what happens.
Okay. What would be on that website? Pictures,
probably footage of me walking through. That way the audience is getting to know you as a realtor in hopes that obviously they contact you directly. And just sort of showing off, the interior, the exterior, the landscape, the community that it's in.
Yep.
I think that's what I would. You don't want it to be too busy because people get lost in those things. Something simple that just highlights.
Do you watch any of those online ever?
I do.
Who's the one guy that does the crazy ones?
Locally or
no.
Nationally? Okay, I was going to say because I don't.
Is it
too many people who are on here?
Enes, Enesylmazer.
Wow, that's a name.
Oh yeah, you got to watch some of these.
Okay.
Like this one that he posted 22 hours ago has 159,000 views.
Will you send that to me?
Yeah. The one that he did Michael Jordan's estate in Chicago, which has been for sale since like I was 8 years old. I think that thing has been for sale forever. He did that one 3 weeks ago. It has 4.8 million views.
Okay.
He does. And I've seen him lately. He's done some boats. Here's one a motor home with 825,000 views. Wow. So he has some he does some amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing properties. Yeah. So he's probably the best that I've seen in terms of doing home tours, and he does them. He does yachts. And he does them on basically other people's listings. Yeah.
So he's interesting. He's interesting to watch too, because you have to have that. You have to have that like it factor,
Yeah. His homes are really interesting.
Okay, but he's done.
I mean, I don't know. I think you pronounce it Enes. Enes, I'm sorry, but his enthusiasm and stuff is great.
Okay.
But, I've watched so many of them that they all kind of sing the same.
Here's another one of my $100 million properties that I have.
No, he gets really excited about the details and stuff like that. I'm going to send you one. I watched one a couple weeks ago. It's like the most amazing house I've ever seen in my life. Wow. He does a really good job of it. It's like a 45-minute video. So I'd love to be able to get into that game and to do that at that kind of level and at that kind of quality. Have you done much video on homes?
Actually, recently, yes, I have. And they're short because I don't think I could ever hold an audience for 45 minutes. And that's a lot of work, to keep people interested and to make them not want to keep, because look at people's attention span these days. They're flipping, they're scrolling. You've got to really, really capture an audience to get them to watch you for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the property plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So, and that's what I was going to say is the content that I have done, it's a lot of it'll be like me walking through the property and then they'll cut and edit, and it'll just be a voiceover, and it'll be kind of the camera going through the house.
Yep.
So,
Well, maybe we get another amazing listing. Maybe I'll hire you if you're available to come and walk through, and we can see if you could engage
that'd be
in a
fun.
beautiful home for 30 minutes.
That'd be
I bet you could.
okay. Challenge accepted.
Should we negotiate a price right now just so I get that locked in? You know, there's this whole inflation thing that's going on. I think I'd like to get locked in on a price right now.
Photos. I really, really want your insight on this.
Okay.
Do you have a preference, or does it depend on the property what time the photos are taken? What time of day?
Yeah, I think so. I've been fortunate enough that a lot of the properties that I deal with are higher end properties, and typically higher end properties have a view component, whether they're on the beach or on deep water or on a lagoon at a golf course. And so the first thing that we're looking at with those is, are they impacted by tide?
Okay.
Right? So I'm not going to do a sunset shoot on a deep water property at low tide.
Okay.
So that might be a sunrise. In all of my experience, and I have no experience actually shooting, but in terms of outcome of photos, it's going to depend on the position of the property, where the sunrise,
Yes.
sunset is, all of those kind of things. And so you really have to look at the entire property and make a determination. But what we've done on our higher end homes is we do a regular photo shoot during the day. And during that photo shoot, we have the photographer tell us whether we should do a sunrise or a sunset twilight. We just call them a twilight.
Yeah.
Whether we need to do a morning or an evening twilight shoot.
Okay. So you're at the mercy of the photographer and asking for their insight.
Yeah.
They're the professionals.
They're the professional. Yeah. So I wouldn't say we're at the mercy, but because I'm holding them accountable.
Okay.
So I want the most amazing set of photos that you can possibly give me on this property. What is it going to take to do that? A morning or an evening shoot?
But for an experienced real estate photographer who's got a very strong client base, and I think this is important to get out there, if you don't have one of those higher end properties, chances are you are not going to be able to get a twilight slot for something that isn't of that luxurious.
I have not been ordering photos lately, so I would be, this is just pure assumption.
Yeah.
But it seems like we have a lot more photography options than we did 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
And there's a lot less listings now. So I would think that I could get whatever I was willing to pay for.
Okay.
But having said that, I don't know.
Yeah. I've wanted one, and they said that they were totally booked up and that they couldn't accommodate it. But it was
Tell me who they are, and I'm going to go talk to them.
okay. Yeah, no, but it's true. Like I think a lot of photographers generally reserve their time slots for depending on what property they're shooting.
You should list so that people know who those dopey photographers were that would say yes. No. How would they say no to you?
I mean,
You're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, well, but yes and no. I'm willing to pay for it, but it's still, if it's a 2,000 square foot house, they're going to be there a fraction of the time, so they're not going to get, the amount of money that they would have gotten for the time slot for the
I could see that.
square foot house. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I could see that, but then I would say to them, well, I'll pay you more
Yeah.
if I really wanted it.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes that much of a difference?
I do.
Okay.
I really do.
Have you seen the virtual twilight?
Terrible. Terrible. I feel very passionate about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you paid for them before?
Never. And I make fun of them when I see them, to myself, not to other people. But I'm like, to me, it looks like a cartoon. Some of them are just way too over the top, and it screams fake. So you talk about the false advertising that we discussed earlier.
I know photographers that are putting different skies in photos.
Yeah. But if it's too much, to me, it looks fake.
Yeah. With anything, I think what makes great is constraint.
Yeah.
At times, right? So I know what you're talking about. Some of them are just so over the top that they look almost like a painting.
Yeah.
They just don't look real.
Right.
But
And it depends on the skill level of the photography
yeah,
department too, because in my experience, I know agents who have sent it overseas and paid $50. And to me, it screams that they paid $50,
that sucks.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What do you see on the horizon? What's gonna change with our marketing? You think we're gonna have headsets pretty soon, and we're gonna wear these headsets, and you're gonna be going into be paying for virtual renderings of houses that we can put our Oculus Rits on, and
it wouldn't surprise me at the rate technology's going. And that's another thing I was going to ask you is, like, do you do continuing education on photography to keep up with all the changes that, would you be ready for that? And I admittedly, I wouldn't be. So I need to catch this technology train before it leaves me behind.
This is probably 5-7 years ago. I was talking to somebody about creating some virtual reality for houses, and we were going to try and do our first one or two.
Wow.
And I found out that there was a couple, I think there were a couple guys that were working on this out at Don Ryan Center.
Okay.
And so we went out, we met with them, and problem with it is when you put the goggles on in a lot of cases and you start looking around, your brain sees what you're looking at, but your ear is like, what the hell is going on? And a lot of people have problems with nausea.
Balance and nausea. I'm just going to say. Yeah.
They get nauseous.
I mean, I can't even swing on the swing, so that would probably happen to me.
When I go into a flight simulator and, you're in a flight simulator and you're seeing everything on the screen. And so like your brain is bought into what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But your ear is like, this isn't matching. I get nauseous pretty much every time.
I think a lot of those virtual reality goggles too, they have like safety or like warnings on them. Like if you're sensitive or, suffer like epilepsy or, seizure disorders.
So I don't know how they solve that. I know a couple companies have moved like gaming and stuff more towards augmented reality, where like you're playing a game and there's dragons, but they're on the chairs over there. And that, so that your scene becomes part of it, and that can help stop that from happening because you can really see what you're in. But I'll tell you, I really did not feel good putting those on and like exploring a house while sitting in a chair, and so I immediately kind of abandoned that as a good option for marketing.
Okay. But I like real life. I'm just a big fan of real life myself.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it'll be good news if it stays real life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if it's real life, they're going to need us.
Yeah. Some things I just feel like you shouldn't mess with. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or,
So the question is, how do we stay ahead kind of marketing? I'm going to admit this live. I steal almost everything from people across the country.
It's not stealing. They can't put it out there if they didn't want to influence people and say, this helped us, we want to help you.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
We coach with Tom Ferry, and he calls it R&D.
Yeah.
Rip off and duplicate, right? And there's a group of us in coaching in different masterminds where we share the things that are working in our areas. And, I'm always getting text messages, hey, has anybody heard of this company? Who's using it? Are you getting any results for it? Or, this company called us and said they can send us leads. Are they any good?
It's a good network to have.
It's guardrails.
Yeah.
It's guardrails on the bowling alley so that you don't throw more gutter balls than you need to figure stuff out.
You don't waste time and you don't waste money.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, where I try and get a lot of the information that I make decisions on, especially when it comes to marketing. I will also just, go to other people's websites and, and if I'm crushing on, the look of their website, or I try and figure out in my mind what it is that I like about it. And like these guys will tell you, then I'm going to them trying to explain to them some concept, and they look at me like I'm stupid, and because I am. And then they're like, is it this that you like? Is it that? And we'll work through and try and figure it out. Sometimes we'll have to do it a couple times and do it poorly a couple times to get on the same page with it.
I know you make jokes about being stupid and you don't know how to do this and you don't know how to do that, but I will say you do know how to delegate and you do know how to hire and put the right people in place to do what needs to be done. And that's awesome.
Well, yeah, and some of it's luck. And really what it all comes down to is I have no fear of screwing up. And I feel blessed at times for that and not so blessed at other times for that. Like Sherry and I, if Sherry does something and it doesn't work, she'll like lament on it forever. I'm like, okay, let's fix it, move on. And like, it's in the rearview mirror, I forget about it. Yeah. And when you're screwing up that frequently, you're gonna hit on some good things.
That's true.
It's just the ability to move on from the mistakes. Same with decision making, right? Like if I have a gift, it's that I can make a decision. And I can know as I'm making the decision that I have no idea whether it's the right decision or not. But I also know that if it's a horrible decision, I'll fix it. And so I can just make that decision. So I've made some silly decisions with marketing. I bought into some things and fought for 6 months to get my money back.
Yeah.
But again, if you try enough things, some stuff is going to stick. And that's in an industry that's evolving, that there's so much new coming at you.
Constantly.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just having the budget, that you can try a bunch of stuff.
That is true.
What is, from a marketing perspective, what brings you the most success?
Probably just connections with people.
Social media?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got through. Honestly, I didn't spend a penny on marketing in 2020 and 2021. I didn't have to. It was my sphere of influence and beyond.
Yeah.
But I'm learning now that I've got to rethink how I was conducting my business, because that's not doing it anymore. Eventually, you're going to run out of people.
With all good ideas, the world changes, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the changes that just everybody starts copying you, and what you're doing doesn't stand out anymore. So you're going to change it up.
Yes.
That's an Achilles heel of the real estate industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Pick a marketing method or delivery method, right? Like, remember when email started, like somebody got the idea, I can send out that new listing via email. And then it turns into, you get 70 messages a day. I mean, some agents, I'll get 4 or 5 messages from one agent one day about price reductions.
Yeah.
Number one, I can see them all in MLS, right? Number two, you could put them all in one email. That would be much appreciated, right? And number three, what if all 2,000 real estate agents send me 5 messages on price reductions today, right? So we can overdo some of these things too, and kind of ruin a good idea.
That's true.
Is there something specific that you're thinking about jumping into for 2023 in terms of marketing?
I think we touched on this a little bit before, but I'm going to get myself back out there again. I'm going to start,
Did you ever leave?
Leave what?
You're getting yourself back out there.
Oh, I did. I left. I mean, I kind of took a step back and, had some other business ventures to take on, but, we just purchased 2 suites in Bluffton. So our business, Nick's Flooring and Design.
Yep.
We're moving back from Ridgeland. We've been in Ridgeland for a while. And, I'm going to create events, which I think is important. I'm going to create them with other agents, because people underestimate the power of having good relationships with other agents. And, so I want to do a lot of agent events, and I want to do a lot of client events, past clients, present clients, and even possible future clients. I've got some people in the pipeline. I mean, they're not going to probably be ready for a year or so, but I think it's important to keep that personal engagement, that in-person engagement.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's kind of what
I think that's an awesome plan.
And community involvement. So
Yeah. I think those are all, they sound old fashioned, but they're in a world that's become so damn digital.
yeah.
I think that those kind of connections are the real connections.
Yeah. I recently went to a real estate event out in Bluffton that, a bunch of us were invited to attend. And it was sort of like a marketing 101, but in 8 hours. And they didn't waste our time touching on things we already knew, but they wanted to sort of throw some new ideas at us. And I had said to them, they had gone around the room and asked, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I had said, I'm actually even thinking of writing handwritten letters. And I know it's going to take time, but handwritten notes, just wanted to touch base, see how y'all are doing. And this kid stood up and he was probably about 15 years younger than me. And it goes, the young lady, and I was like, young? Did someone say young? And he's like, the young lady that mentioned the handwritten notes, he said, as a, if I'm a millennial, what's the Gen, is it Gen Z?
Z, yeah.
A Gen Z?
Yeah.
He was like, as a Gen Z, I personally would love to get something handwritten because I've never gotten anything handwritten in my life.
Well,
So he was like, I'd be like mind blown. So yeah, just kind of back to me.
notes are magic.
Yeah.
They're magic.
Mm-hmm.
What about website? What do you have for a website? Or do you do most of your website through social media?
What website?
Do you have a website?
Oh, no, but I'm getting a website.
Are you?
Yes. So Heather Nix already exists. It's a photographer over in like Mississippi or something.
Okay.
It's fine. In my mind, there's only one Heather Nix, but truthfully,
That should be
there's tons.
There's only one heathernix.com.
So I actually purchased Heather C. Nix, which I thought was kind of fun. It's kind of like a Michael J. Fox. Heather C. Nix, why not? And I also
What's the C stand for?
Christian.
Christian.
Yeah, my grandfather was Christian.
Cool.
They called him Christy. But so I purchased my website domain name, and I actually got another website that I was shocked was for sale. It's blufftonhomesforsale.com.
Nice.
So I purchased that one. And now I just need, I'm going to have someone help me create a logo with my name. And I'm going to, have somebody build me a website.
Nice.
We're going to go from there. Yeah, we just talked about this literally last night. This was part of my planning time with Kenny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I have some ideas for you once we shut the cameras off
Okay.
of who to go to for a website.
Okay.
Right? Because you want a website that's going to help you do business.
Correct.
Right.
I don't just need something pretty on a business card.
Yeah, you want something that's going to be the foundation for your business you're going to drive business with. Yeah. So this show is all about marketing today, and we talked about various aspects of marketing real estate.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I know you and I are committed to, and that's marketing ourselves.
True.
Right? It's an important piece of this business because marketing yourself is making connections to people.
It's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the richest people on this earth are the ones that are connected to people, quality connections to people. Like you and I didn't know each other before we decided to do this. And now we're connected, right? And we don't know where that will go in the future, where that will lead. We were just showing, or we were looking at a reel that you had put out about that had come from the podcast that's got almost 1 million views.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's cool. That's what can happen with building connections, right? That's why we do this. So what are your goals for yourself in terms of your own marketing this year? Not just marketing property, not having a website to market property, but where do you want to take the Heather C. Nix brand this next year?
Oh man, I am all about personal relationships. Even with friends, I can't do surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So relationships and connections, it's got to be a good fit for me, on various levels. So
Well, from my perspective, and I'm sure those that know you will agree, you're pretty easy to get along with,
thank you.
right?
There are those that would disagree with you on that.
Well, I mean, there's idiots out there, right?
I think if I'm being honest, again, I just want to get out there what I do, how I do it, and, and that I work hard and, I'm 100% committed.
One of the things that's interesting to me getting to know you is you're 100% committed to several different things, right?
Yeah.
To your family, to your husband,
Yes.
To your other business,
Yes.
to the dance studio, right? Like these are all things that I can see the passion
Yeah.
that you have for them.
Yeah.
So as you step into this new year, right, and you go deeper into your personal connections with people and all of those different places where you're in 100%, what do you want to get out of this? Out of no contingencies, out of this relationship, what do you want to give the viewers? I mean, we want more people to subscribe. We're getting lots of views.
We do.
Getting a lot of positive feedback?
I am. Are you?
Yeah, a lot of it.
I think we touched on this in the very beginning too, is I think that, the more you can create a presence on what you do and what you're passionate about and what you're interested in, and it comes from a good place, I think organically things are going to sort of take off. I mean, do I want to use the podcast to just become just a resource for people in the industry? No, because I still want to be a big part of this industry. I still want to be out there. I still want to be making sales. But, I don't know. I guess I'm just a little stumped.
Yeah.
It's going to take me some time to come up with a response for that.
I just want to connect with more people.
Yeah.
Right? I want to get to know more people. Some of those people will become friends. Some of those people might develop into coworkers. Yeah. Some of those folks may be resources, connections that we have in other markets.
Yeah.
Where we refer business. Like I can't, just through getting lots of connections and working on my social media, I mean, I get 2 or 3 referrals a week.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
Yeah.
I let you hear a recording as we started today, somebody calling me saying, I've never met you, but I'd like to talk to you about listing my house. I listened to your show on social media.
Yeah.
It creates an opportunity where you can begin to connect with people that you don't even know.
That's true.
And that's my hope for this.
Yeah.
That we can connect with more people, both of us, that we don't even know, and we can enrich in their lives. And they can enrich in our lives. And we can just continue to help each other in an industry that, for the last couple of years has just been a little too cutthroat, a little too impersonal, right? A little too much about the deal and too less about the relationships. Not just the real estate relationships between the agents, but between buyer and seller.
Yeah.
And we've been in this environment where the seller is dictated and kind of, in many cases, put the buyers in real difficult positions, unfair positions. And it's good to get back to a balance with that.
I agree. Your answer is way better than mine.
Well, I had thought about it, and that's why I was asking you about it. So I had a little bit of an advantage. But in knowing that, right, help me ask the viewers to follow us on social media personally, to subscribe.
Yeah.
Right? We want to keep doing this. We want to connect.
Yeah.
I think you and I both talked that we want to have other real estate agents here locally on with us.
Absolutely.
We want them to tell their stories and connect with more people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We just want this to be a platform of connection.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah. Guys, we want to be a resource to you. We want you to be a part of this show with us. So get engaged with us and click the link below. And if you have any questions, ask them. If you have, anything that you want to add to the show, we would love to hear from you. So please click the link. We want to hear from you.
Definitely. We want to connect with people more. And we want to have conversations about the things that are important. to all of you that are watching.
Come on this journey with us.